Welcome to BS of the Week, episode 34. I am Patrick Driggett, coach of the Berlin Fire, and I am joined by my friends.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Lucy from the Glasgow Rushmores.
I'm Ben Duggan of the Kerno Sharks.
And I'm Colin Andrew of We Need a Better Kicker.
I feel like they should change that team name. It doesn't fit the theme. Welcome to our special guest and to Kev. Sorry I couldn't be here last week. I appreciate all the well wishes. I am fine. Just wasn't doing well for a week there. But here we are. Week 4 was exciting, huh? That was some bangers in there. Some great games. Yeah. Speaking of which, Kev, why don't you kind of talk through the first 8 games of the list there?
Okie doke. Well, the first 8 games, the top game there we had happened to be the Fire against the Chargers. Fire 23, the Chargers 20. And our anchorman there seems to be quietly slipping through and getting yet another win. How on earth he does it, I have no idea. And that's despite Chris going into a 14-zip lead in the first 8 minutes of the game. I bet there was a little bit of worry at that stage, Patrick, because to be quite honest, you hadn't even woken up at that stage. Chris was all over you.
Jet lag.
Yeah, jet lag, yeah. And then the second quarter, we saw the Fire come back and take a lead of 17-14 at half-time. Then what happened was they decided to be friendly and just exchange field goals with each other until the score was 23-20. And then we had the most extraordinary 10 minutes of the game where it was just a defensive masterclass. And I have to say it was from both teams. It wasn't just from one team. What we saw was that the ball moved a massive 35 yards in 10 minutes, and they just kept 4 and out, 3 and out, 4 and out, 3 and out. It was just unbelievable. And as I say, remarkably, the score stayed at 23-20. So a good win there for the Fire. Must be very happy about that. Tough for Chris because he played very well there, I thought, and quite a strange ending where the defensive were just absolutely dominant, but a great game. Next one on my list, Packers against the Sharks. Oh, Ben, what can I say, mate? A very strong mixed game here from Tom's Packers. 320 yards in the air, 283 yards on the ground. You've really no idea whether you're defending the air or defending the ground. Ben basically just decided, I'm throwing this damn thing. 465 yards in the air. But unfortunately, Ben, as you know yourself only too well, along with some other coaches this week, which I will mention, Ben decided to shoot himself totally and utterly in the foot. Don't know if you know this, but Ben plays 2 offensive formations. He plays pro set and he plays ace. And in his ace formation, he decided, yes, I know you can cringe, Ben, decided to leave his left guard with a very good name, Irresponsible. Now, his left
I knew
guard,
this would come back to bite me.
His left guard, Irresponsible, is carrying 2, not 1, but 2 E injuries. So,
coming up against him out there, does the rest of the line just bring him there? Is that what happens?
Yeah, and he just flops on the ground.
Yeah. And obviously, no disrespect, Ben, but when you're playing a team like Tom's teams there, you only lost by 10. How much of a difference it would have made, who knows? But you've got to sort of say that game would have been closer. But the good news is you're not the only coach to make a bit of a faux pas this week. So you were saved by that, which moves us on to the next game, which was the Phoenix 31 against the Rapiers 38. And where we talked about irresponsible from Ben, Ian was another coach who basically missed 2 sitters of field goals, absolute sitters. By that, I mean a 16-yard punt and a 20-odd yard punt. Oh. Ian, you have got to sort out your special teams because you've set it at 15 yards or less for your kicking unit.
Here's what I'd like to say to that, Kev. Ian, reach out to the brothers Hastings, Tad or Todd. They'll tell you which one to go to. They will happily get on Zoom with you and help you set that up. They're excellent. Just do whatever they say and you'll be good to go.
Yeah. Just do that. So basically, unfortunately, they're in playing against the Rapiers through 6 points, 6 definite points away. And in a 7-point game, you know, who knows what would have happened if that was the case. And that really was a difference. Nevertheless, though, you've got to sort of admire the short passing game from Phil and Pogue, who we've all heard of and we've all spoken about in this program, again, was on form, 365 yards in the air. And that, to be honest, was the difference between the two teams. You know, so a good game there. And unlucky, Ian. I'm sure the Rapiers, Phil's Rapiers, needed that win and they sort of move on. Next one, Rough Riders 23, Sun Devils zip. Despite the scoreline, this actually was pretty defensive. Pretty much the defenses were all on top. Ball didn't move very far. Not much really to say on this game. Peter just goes marching on. This is one of his better seasons. And unfortunately for Sam, this tough season really continues.
Well, I'm curious what you all think. We haven't heard from him since week 1 when we beat Sam's team. Fire beat them, and he hasn't really been active. And he's generally quite active, and I wonder if he's just kind of going into rebuild mode right now to try to get the draft pick. That's my. I mean, I honestly am just guessing based off the inactivity. I mean, he's obviously setting his game plans, I think, right?
I don't know. I mean, Colin and I were at the live draft with Peter last year, and he did say he was going to try and sort of give a bit more time to the game. And it looks this season as if he has done.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I think that's been apparent. My curiosity, you know, Sam, obviously great friend of the program, been on here a lot of times. It was kind of curious that we haven't heard from him. And now, obviously, with the 38-0 shutout, to me feels like maybe he's just in draft pick mode right now.
Yeah. Next game, Titans 32 and the Irish 35. Now, this was an absolutely amazing game. All of it taking place in the air. You could have camped on the ground and nobody would run you over. Everything went up in the air. And basically, there was a 10-point lead that the Irish moved straight into. And then they extended that to 20 to 3 at half time. And you sort of thought, okay, that's it all pretty much under control. And then the Titans bring it all back to 2017 before it goes 27-17. And then again, once again, the Titans bring it back to 27-24. And so basically the Irish never got a chance to get ahead. Then the Titans give up a safety, which again is a slightly unusual thing in gridiron. And it basically made it 29-24. Scores then swapped around to make it 32-32. And we then went, there was still 5 minutes to go when it was 32 all. And nobody managed to put the thing in the end zone. Nobody managed to kick a field goal. So we went into overtime. And then this is probably one of the better overtimes that I've actually watched, because the ball actually changed hands, or possession, should I say, changed hands 6 times before the Irish kicker, Wright, actually went down and got a field goal from 30 yards. So a game that quite literally could have gone either way. Fantastic game, brilliant to watch, and a lot of good football taking place in that. Rushmore's against the Bombers. Rushmore's 47, Bombers 17. Not going to say very much about this one. Basically, we were 34-0 up at one stage, so that sort of describes the game a little bit. And then in the last 15 minutes, the game over offenses and defenses come on. And the game ends up 47-17. Next game, the Knights against the Eagles. Knights 12, the Eagles 30. Now here I am really cheesed off with Brian because, as you know, Brian went and got one over on me last week by having a miraculous comeback. He decided he wasn't going to do that this week. It could well be that the Eagles is a damn sight better team than mine is, so probably not quite so easy to come back from. But this was basically the Eagles went 24-0 up. And to be quite honest, Brian refused to come back, which I'm really annoyed about, Brian. Eagles go marching on, and the Knights, again, not sure about the Knights this season. They did manage to do us, but they've had a bit of a tough season apart from that. And then the last one on my list is Leeds against the Surfers. Leeds 15, the Surfers 13. And here we have our third coach who made an error this week in Gary with his Surfers, because by his own admission, he missed the deadline to change his game plan. And again, 15-13, you can see just how important it is to just double check and treble check that game plan. And Gary admitted that, and to be quite honest, that could have, well, who knows what difference it might have made or didn't make. Surfers fell behind 15-3 to Leeds, the 66ers, and they then put on a fantastic comeback, but it was just one of those sort of too little, too late sort of ideas where they got to 15-13. And again, in this game, ironically, the difference between the two teams was 2 points. And guess what the Surfers did? They gave up a safety. So that's the second safety this week for 2 points. Otherwise, who knows what on earth would have happened. And those were the games at the top of the games list this week.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, Kev. A lot of good ones. Thanks for the breakdown.
Yeah, some cracking
a lot of
ones
interesting there. 2 safeties. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they're just as rare in any league I've ever seen. You don't see a lot of safeties. So
yeah.
Cool. Ben, what do you have for the rest of the games?
So we will start off with the Massive and Stormers. Now this was a super tight game. And for me, when I looked at it, it seemed like a bit of a mess, really. I don't quite know how the Stormers seem to win this one. They missed every field goal. Their quarterback got sacked 5 times. No one really got out of their half for most of the game. And, even when they did, it was usually a turnover, which, to be honest, was lucky if they managed to get a field goal out of it. So, the Massive recovered a fumble on the Stormers' 20-yard line at one point, and they could only muster up a field goal out of it. So that kind of shows you where this game was going, really. I think the Stormers also got one on the 10-yard line, the Massive's 10-yard line, and they missed the field goal, unsurprisingly. But the Stormers made one turnover count when they got it. They scored the winning touchdown, and it ended 14-10 to the Stormers. So I think they're pretty happy to pick up a win with that one there. So, but the Maroons and the Patriots, the next game, this was a bit more like it. Both teams going at it, but unfortunately, the Patriots took a bit of a battering. Unfortunately, they had 6 turnovers, and poor old quarterback Oakwell, he got sacked 6 times. So that wasn't particularly good for the Patriots there. Having said that, despite being sacked so many times, he still managed to get 390 yards away, and most of them to the star wide receiver Drift, who is having a phenomenal season, and definitely is their weapon. And at the moment, he seems like one of those players that not a lot of people seem to be able to stop. You can sack the QB to death, but if he's still getting the ball away and getting it to Drift, it's going to be a long afternoon for you. But it was fairly tight. As the second half started, the Patriots were staging a bit of a comeback, getting it to 24-24, which was good to see. But then the Maroons said, nah, and went on to score 24 unanswered points and got it to 48-24. So the Maroons are looking really, really strong at the moment. They've got a well-balanced offense and a strong defense. So, yeah, they just keep marching on at the moment. I think they're going to be a very, very strong playoff team, which I think Kev may have alluded to in the past. So keep an eye out for them. And if you're facing them soon, watch out, really. Then we move on to the Buccaneers and the Huskies. Another gritty game that sort of went back and forth. You know, one team would score and then it would be a bit of a dogfight, and then the other one would score, and it was back and forth and back and forth. I think the Bucs were helped a lot with the Huskies turnover, but they didn't put up much in terms of an offense. To be honest, though, the Huskies left tackle must have been on holiday, because there were 13 sacks in the whole game, and Huskies QB Kenzie took 11 of them. Wow. So I think QB McKenzie must have been on a first name basis with the entire Bucs D line by the time the game was over, because he certainly seemed to make a lot of acquaintances with them. But the Huskies managed to clinch a narrow 2019 lead in the fourth quarter. Both teams going back and forth with no luck. But then the Bucs break a tackle from a punt, return it for a TD, and then the poor old Huskies, they just couldn't get out of that half and couldn't mount a comeback. And the Bucs go to win it 28-20. So yeah, a bit of a a gritty game there on that one. Next one on the list is the Devils and the Shadows. Another super close game, and this one seemed to be a battle of the defenses. Both teams struggled to get anything really going on offense. The running backs didn't get much on the ground. They weren't nearly carrying as well, and not getting the averages that you would expect. And the aerial battle from the QBs and the wide receivers was nothing to write home about, unfortunately. But once again, seems to be a theme. It was sack city, 12 sacks in the game, and the Devils suffering the lion's share of them. The Devils kicker had a very, very busy day kicking the ball, trying to score points, but he ended up missing 2 field goals, both early on in the game, which could potentially have made the difference later on down the line. But overall, I think the Shadows just seem to have a better team all round out there, sort of better when they got the ball and better at defending and holding the Devils back a bit. And they managed to take the win. They won 16-12. So yeah, like I say, another super close game on that one. Next one, the Bulldogs and the Rhinos. And what a game from the Bulldogs. What a game. Playing away from home, and they put out a phenomenal performance. I mean, the Rhinos took an early lead in the first half. They go 14-6 up. But then all of a sudden, the Bulldogs just woke up, and their defense and special teams came to the rescue, because they were blocking punts, cramping punts. They were creating fumbles and turnovers. I think the Rhinos gave up 5 turnovers overall, and just gave the Bulldogs great possession, good field position to start trying to put up some scores. From the third quarter onwards, you know, the Rhinos didn't really get much of a look in, unfortunately, and yeah, the Bulldogs ran away with it. Their elite wide receiver Malone had a stellar game, 300 yards receiving, 25 yards of reception. A really dangerous player, and I think he was one of the players I sort of noted in one of our draft episodes a little while ago, going, this guy's going to be special, and the Bulldogs are definitely making use of him, and they took a good win, 30-14.
Yeah, people shouldn't sleep on the Bulldogs. I mean, they've played every game close. They've lost by 3 to the Eagles. They lost by 6 to the Surfers. They lost, in every one of their games, they're putting up a lot of points too. So, like, they've marked next week against the Warriors as their key game. So, I wouldn't. I think the Bulldogs have outside shot to get.
Yeah, I think. So. I think they've been building for a really long time. They've not had great seasons, but I think recently with sort of the caretaker coaches coming in and doing some work with them, I think it's finally starting to come together. And I think as the season goes on, they might pull out a few more wins and might be one to watch in the next couple of seasons. You never know. So quickly move on to the Weasels and the Warriors. A great game for the Weasels, an all-round great performance on offense and defense. You can't really go wrong when your running back is running as well as that. I mean, they got over 200 yards on the ground and in the air. Running back Duggan, who got the MVP, and quite rightly so. He had a stellar game, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8.6 yards per carry, and no fumbles. That's pretty much as perfect as you could ever ask from your running back. Really, he just stole the show. So yeah, absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, the Warriors just couldn't get much going at any point. They had way less possession, and most of their drives were starting way back in their own. Some of them, I think most of them were in their own red zone. So they had every time they had a long way to go, and just unsurprisingly, they just couldn't make it all the way, couldn't get anything going, and it was fairly one-sided from the get-go, really. So the Weasels took it 31-10. And then the final game I have on my list, which there's one exception, is the Rivets and the Giant Hornets. Now, everyone knew this was the game to watch, and it did not disappoint. Giant Hornets got on the board within the first second, returning a kickoff for a touchdown. And from then you were like, okay, this is going to be special. But then the Rivets do what they do. They early blowout, smash out 24 points like it's nothing. But then Giant Hornets muster a comeback. How brilliant is that? And yeah, and in all that excitement, it ties the game, and the Giant Hornets have that extra point opportunity, and they miss. Anywho, and we all kind of know how this pans out. I'm not going to go into too much more detail because I'm going to let somebody else talk about it. But I'm just going to say it's not my game of the week just because it's the Sky Bowl replay does not necessarily mean it's game of the week. But Colin, why don't you tell us more about it now that you're sat there?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks, guys. Well, yeah, I don't know what to say. We came out of the blocks, rocky 96-yard kickoff return, special play from the special teams coordinator. We're up, we're laughing, and then Conrad goes up and scores 24 points unanswered. He puts up something like 200 and, let me just check my records here, 217 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal, and then 2 interceptions. In those next 5 drives of the Hornets, we put up 23 yards positive and 4 yards negative for a net 19-yard gain. And I'm like, I can't believe it. It's just a nightmare. It took us till 21 minutes to get double-figure drive, and that was an interception return for 38 yards. And it took us till 27 minutes to actually get a first down. Can't believe it, but we did a nice drive, got to the half, 31-15, thought we were doing quite right. And then he comes again in the second half. He starts on the 54, I think, and he's first goal on the 4, and he loses his down, 4th and inches. We couldn't stop him for the whole of the bloody game, and we managed to stop him on 4th and inches. And then we didn't do anything, went 2 yards ourselves, punted it a bit, and he came back with a field goal. But then the Hornets just battered in the second half. We've gone 200 and something yards. He's gone, I don't know. I've gone 270. He's gone 103 in the second half. Wasn't the last kick of the game that lost it. It was the one before on 51 minutes. But Christ, so close. We tried absolutely everything we had. We threw everything at that game. They talked it up. We're now rivals. Put the special teams on. We were aggressive. And I just can't believe we're 24 points down, and I can't believe we had a kick to win it. It was a great game. Well played, Conrad. But I'm getting there. The next one will be closer. Guarantee it. I hope.
Don't say that, Colin, because it'll be a tie.
Well, that'll be good enough for me. At least it won't be a loss. I hope everybody enjoyed it. As I say, we put absolutely everything we had into that game. Offense is not quite doing as well as we expect. And the first half, the defense just, I don't know, couldn't stop him. But the second half, it was the other way around. It was almost a game of 2 halves. We only started playing it on minute 27. So yeah, it was a great game to watch. I was just so gutted. But well played, Conrad, for the record. Going on even more.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game, Colin. You set the team up brilliantly, and it was so close. It's I don't think anyone's got closer.
I mean, it's only been 5 game weeks if you think about it from the Sky Bowl, right? Like, I think you've done a really excellent job of change. Your trajectory is very positive.
I was going to say, sort of, what do you think it's been since sort of the Sky Bowl game until now? What is it that you think you've managed to do that sort of made that difference to put Conrad to the sword a bit more?
Conrad nailed it in the comments. I've traded in a really strong safety. They're really good against the rush, inside and outside. I was a bit weak in the linebackers, traded in several outside linebackers, so I've got some depth, and I've got an extra inside linebacker. So it was really 3 trades that were doing it. The safety Thundercat, Obi, Greener, and a couple of others just to strengthen in depth were the main reasons. So yeah, and my offense, the running back is certainly better than Tripson was last season by several levels, but he just hasn't got quite the experience yet. And next year, when he gets to level 3, he will get the running back receiver link up with the trainer, with the staff trainer, running back coach. So it'll be better next season as well.
Wow.
So yeah,
Oh dear.
Oh dear, he says.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for that, Colin. We really appreciate you coming on the show and chatting about that. That's a tough loss, but yeah, I think you're showing yourself to be one of the strongest challengers to the reign of Conrad. So I think that's interesting and definitely nothing to be ashamed of. So thanks for the breakdown.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. So Ben, game of the week. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's not the Rivets and the Giant Hornet, even though it was that close. But for me, game of the week goes to the Generals and the Statesmen. Just because I think in terms of the games that were on the board, this was sort of one of the other ones to really pay attention to. It was 2 Titans in the big sky going against each other, other than the Rivets and the Giant Hornets, obviously. And I think this battle kind of would tell us a lot in terms of playoff and who's going for it in those final few games all the way to the Sky Bowl. And if you look at it, it really was a battle of wills. I mean, you've got Alex and the Generals, RB Hooker, who has just been unstoppable all season and for so many seasons in the past. I mean, I do the MVP, for the last couple of seasons, and he's always been up there, ever so close. And he's going up against Lee and the Statesmen, who have been historically capable of taking on any team, any player, and putting them to the sword. So yeah, RB Hooker had a job on his hands, and the game just didn't seem to pan out the way that I think we all thought. The stats certainly didn't look like it, because I mean, you look at the Statesmen, they didn't seem to put much on the board in terms of the offensive stats. It was less than 200 yards overall on offense, including penalty yards, but they scored in every quarter. I think they were just efficient. I think the Statesmen just knew what they needed to do to stop the Generals, to stop RB Hooker, and they executed it absolutely brilliantly. I mean, he still got 140 yards, which is still pretty good, but he didn't get the touchdowns. He didn't get into the end zone, and I think that's just a testament really to Statesman, his game planning, his defense, what he's managed to do. And I know Alex was really disappointed about this game. He said in the comments he wanted to push the Statesman harder, and yeah, I think one thing he mentioned was the Statesman special teams. Another thing that constantly gets overlooked in the game at the moment, and it makes all the difference. So for me, it was game of the week just to watch these 2 teams go against each other, and for the Statesmen to really show what you can do when you craft a team well, when you game plan well, and stop an absolute mammoth like RB Hooker and prove it can be done. So that was my game of the week. So congratulations to Lee and the Statesman.
Oh, that's great game of the week. And I'm excited about week 8. Colin's Giant Hornets play the Statesmen. I think that's going to be a fun one, and I think I just see here Lee has marked that game as this key game, so that'll be an interesting one to watch. So thanks, Ben. And Colin, I have to feel like you've got that one. That's up on your wall, isn't it? Is it behind the monitor? Do you have that one marked in as well? It feels like that's going to be a good measure.
I do have that one marked in, but my key game is against the Patriots in week 9 for Monday Night Football.
Oh,
Some extra cumulative bonuses that they do when you have Monday Night Football and key game.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was thinking of doing talk it up that game as well for even extra bonuses, but I used that up against Conrad to get a rivalry status if we ever meet again, because well, I think he has 6 frenzied players. I've got a couple, but mine are in some really nice places which are going to help me. So
Nice.
happy with that.
Awesome. Well, so coach of the week, name we haven't mentioned a ton, but just, he's a great coach in the league and always puts in great effort. And that's Ray Marsh of the Irish. I think he had a really good game. I think it was super close. I was very impressed with that game. As close as Colin and Conrad were, there's an expectation there. You're both high level coaches that are always going to bring your A game. But seeing kind of Ray put a really good game plan together against the Titans, I thought that was really impressive. And so Ray Marsh is our coach of the week. So
well played, Ray.
What's that?
Well played, Ray.
Oh yeah. All right. So that's that. Colin, you got some week 5 games to watch. We got week 5 coming up.
Yeah, there's some good games going on. In the LFC, we've got the Fire and Statesman, top 2, both undefeated. In the my division with Kevin, it's us at the Glasgow Rushmores. I can steal his other seat to go with this one. Both top 2. Week 3, we've got Wolverhampton and Thurlesby's Rhinos, top 2 again. And again in the other one, we've got Sharks versus the Bucks, top 2. So there's 4 really great games there in the LFC, top 2 against each other in all 4. I think in the PFC, we've got the Rough Riders versus the Rapiers. Rapiers really need to win just to keep on the tails, get the playoffs going. And we've also got the Maroons and the Surfers. And I think if the Surfers lose, that's them out of the playoff race for this season. But my game of the week next week, none of those. I think it's the Irish versus the Massive down in the LFC East. Is it PFC East? I don't know. I can't read it anymore.
The LFC West is in my division.
The Irish versus Massive, they're right down. I think the bottom, it's going to be a good game. I think it's 4-point spread. And the other one, I think, is Exmouth Titans versus the Washington Stormers. They're my 2 games to watch out, one in each division.
Wow, great. Yeah, great call out. Yeah.
We'll try and welcome you to Glasgow, Colin, and I hope it's a less than 35-point spread like the last game was.
I'm just going to let you know I've set my game over at 50 points.
That's
very kind of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming. Great show. It's awesome. It's been a great, honestly, so many good games like this season. It feels like every week it's a pleasure to see the number of games that are just competitive. Yeah, it's been great. So yeah. So thanks everyone for coming. Ben, appreciate it. Good luck next week. Colin,
thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Kev, don't you dare wish him luck.
I was going to wish you both luck, but now I'm taking yours away and only giving it to Colin. No, I'm kidding. Kev, okay, Kev, you get the luck. You need it. Colin, you don't get the luck. All right. I hope everybody has an awesome week. Set your game plans. Contact the Hastings for some help with your special teams. If you're kicking or punting at the wrong time, I'm sure they will be happy to help. And seems like a couple of games would have gone the other way if we would have done that. So reach out. Thanks everybody and have an awesome week.